We have a lot of console settings to go over for Black Ops 6, but the nice part is that you do get this nice little training area where you can mess around a lot of things. We're going to be able to go over the different graphic settings, interface, which is very important when it comes to the HUD, and then controller settings so you know how to auto attack sprint if you still want to do that, and be able to ease into the Omni movement. So one of the first things I wanted to show off was the interface, because it has a few different options that you want to go and cover. But the one that I really wanted to point out was this HUD preset section, because initially it looks like not much is going on. But when you actually click this, in this mode, you can actually go through and you can visualize what it's going to look like on the actual HUD instead of just selecting it through a menu. Super helpful. You can also go ahead and change the colors of the interface altogether. So maybe you want to go ahead and use one of these different color blindness settings, or you want to go ahead and use a custom one. On top of that, you can also change different things like the minimap shape, which traditionally we go with the square just because it offers more visible area. You can get rid of the compass if you want to go ahead and move that. If you want to move the compass to the top, you can do that. If you want to go ahead and turn it off entirely because you don't like it, or you want it with the minimap, you can go ahead and do that. You can also decide whether or not you want it to rotate or not. Right now, it's rotated. I'm looking directly straight. You can go ahead and swap that to your preference. Radar. If you don't really like the layout of the map and you just want to go ahead and kind of see it as general radar, you can do that. I don't really see much use cases for that, but you could do that. And then the nice part is if you want it bigger, you can actually increase the size of the minimap, and you'll be able to have that flexibility with that. Obviously, this is kind of the way I would go. It is a little bit finicky, as you can see there. And then you can even lower the opacity. Once you got your HUD set up, you're going to want to head over to display in the graphics area, go to safe area, and then you can actually bring in your HUD a little bit on the outside, and you can really play around with this so you don't have to look all the way to your corner of your screen to see that mini map or your ammo. Then for the interface, we also can do global or readability. We'll go ahead and start off global. We can kind of go through that. Some of these are just going to be preference. A lot of people don't like the tool tips, gameplay tips. You can turn a lot of that stuff off. If you want to skip the kill cam, you can do that as well. Latency, you can put that on to see if you're having some issues connecting or where you're connecting to. Packet loss, if you want the clock or the connection meter. And then readability is where you get another little boost, a little secret thing that I've included in all my videos when it comes to setting videos for console for a while now. And that is this color customization. Again, subtitles, if you want them off. Again, those are preferences. I won't spend too much time on that. But the color customization, you want it to look like this. Default, unless you have some color blindedness, you can play with those individual settings, preference. But when we get down here to this color filter settings, this will give you a little bit more saturations, give your colors a little bit more pop. Sometimes on PC, people use NVIDIA filters. This solves for a lot of that. You put it to filter 2, and then you go ahead and select the color filter target as both, which will include world and interface. And then the intensity, you'll bump that up from 75 up to 100. You put this all the way at 0, it would look essentially black and white or something like that. But there it is. You get them both dialed in and it works for that. Next up is the graphics section. We'll generally start off with the display. If you have 120 hertz, you generally want that, especially for how fast the things move. Brightness will depend a lot on your monitor. And then the preset, I don't change that. I left it for efficiency. Quality, you're going to go ahead and turn off world motion blur, weapon motion blur. It adds to a little bit more blurriness in the game. Depth of field off. Fidelity cast, this is something you have a little bit of control on the sharpness of the game and the way that it looks in terms of clarity. You bump this on, and then you can go ahead and usually raise this up as high or as low as you want. But generally, I set mine around 65%. Right now, there's a lot of packet loss and a little bit of issues. They removed the off option for this. So what we do generally with this one is to kind of help out with that end. Not going to completely fix it because until they optimize it, it's going to have some issues. But you're going to go ahead and do minimal, open the tab, and then go to small. So it's not using a ton of that. Then view, we turn off motion reductions. You can go ahead and increase those. Those are just like a preset to adjust some of the things we already did and kind of just simplify it. But we have it off. And then field of view, you're going to generally put it wherever you want. I normally sit around 107 to 110 for multiplayer and Warzone. And some people will go a lot higher depending on what mode they're going to play. Affected FOV, so it doesn't get so zoomed in. So I'll give you an example of that right here. So if we go ahead and aim down sight, you can see how much it zooms in. If we go to that graphic view, we can actually do independent and you'll see it zooms in significantly more, which is okay for multiplayer, but it will give an illusion of a little bit more visual recoil. Again, preference in that individual case. Most people tend to go to affected with narrow and narrow for vehicle and weapons, even though we don't really have access to vehicles. And then first person, we're going to remove some of that camera shake. And that generally helps, especially if you're on keyboard and mouse. Not too many because we're on controller, but That's just kind of how that part works. Also, it's probably a good time to remind you, if you enjoy the video, hit the like button and subscribe if you're looking for more Black Ops 6 content. And then last but not least, we get into the controller settings. The base controller settings, you're going to choose the layout that makes the most sense for you. I have 2 paddles on my PS5 Edge, so factor that into it. I don't really do much other than flip triggers, which make it pretty easy. But if you need some other settings or you want to do a custom layout, you can change all of these various settings to make it a little bit easier. Some of the ones that have been popular in the past is tactical flip. So you can use your R3 as your drop shot button. That'd be your slide and also your dive. So you'd be able to work with that. L2 bumper jumper tactical. Those are a few. If you have other ones that you like in the comments, or if you play claw, that could be the other option. But you could really just pick what you like and what you enjoy. Stick layout preset, default. I've never actually even tried to use any of these other ones. Sensitivity, I have it kind of set up where it's at. It is going to be relative to your field of view. So if your field of view is higher, sometimes it might be worth lowering these. And this one will just get a feel how accurate you can be. If you're missing shots, you probably need to lower it down. We usually do horizontal 1 higher because of when you're spinning, you're using that more than your up and down and get a little bit more control over that. All the settings we're putting in is going to account for a lot of these. Swap triggers, that's what I said. I'm on a PS5 controller, so I can do that. If you're on Xbox, flip triggers just generally doesn't work. Vibration, we turn that off. Trigger effect off. Dead zones. This is one that I always get asked. They're like, well, what should I put my dead zones on? So what you do is you turn this on, and then what you're going to end up seeing is that when you move these joysticks, you can kind of see how much they move. On the bottom, you can kind of see the general, when I let them go, they shouldn't be moving. If they're moving a lot, or they're like way over here, you might need a new controller, or you account for it with the dead zone modifier. In this particular case, I don't have much, so you'd either leave them at 0 or maybe even put up to 1 or 2. You'll kind of look at the numbers where they are on the X and the Y below those circles and get an idea. Left stick, we usually put this one a little bit lower so we can go ahead and get right into that sprint much quicker. You can see I'm only pushing it further, and then we're already at max pushing on that left one. So it gives us to make it feel just a little bit more responsive. Then we get into aiming. Here's the one where I don't know why they separated this one off from the controller section, but the ADS sense multiplier, normally I would play on a 6.5.8. If you had a point number next to it, some people play on 1, but if you had the 0.8, this is where you're going to find it in the aiming, and then open that tab a little bit further. Inverted, that's a preference. Then we'll go ahead and tab into the advanced settings really quick. And here's where you're going to get your response curve. You're pretty much just going to switch it to dynamic. A lot of people do standard. Some people have a preference of linear. Whatever you've been using, I would stick with that. If you're not really sure where to start, dynamic is one of the most popular options. If you want to do custom zoom sensitivity, maybe use a lot of various optics. This is how you can do that. You switch it, open it up, and then you can switch the specific ones. I don't generally mess with these unless I'm deciding that, hey, I'm going to go into this long-term sniping grind, and then I'll adjust the sensitivity based off the optic I'm going to be using. And then target assist. Before, we used to have 3 different aim assists. We had standard, precision, and focusing, I believe. And they removed those other 2 to keep it a little bit simpler. And this matches more of like what we had at the aim assist in Cold War, where within those 3 meters, you lose some of that aim assist. So they've essentially nerfed it within Black Ops 6. Motion sense, this is more of like you're going to play with the gyro. Not really ideal unless just that's something you're used to. And here's where we get into the tactical sprint area. If you go ahead and go show more, default, you can see this is super high. You're going to want to put that to 0. So there's no delay on your auto tac sprint. Tactical sprint, sprint assist, tactical sprint assist. That is auto tac sprint. And that's kind of just going to allow you to get into your tac sprint as soon as possible. And then you're going to take advantage of all the omni movement with these set to on. Mantle assist, off. All of these, off. Mantle cancels reload. Yeah, that makes sense. Crouch assist, off. Automatic airborne mantle, off. And if you really want to get used to more responsiveness of all the different movement, hybrid is the way to go and has been a way to go for a while. I did a full video covering this once they added this thing, and this is definitely the meta when it comes to the different options. If you're someone that doesn't want to partake in omni movement, you can choose slide only. You don't need to dive, and you can take advantage of things that way. It's really preference, but hybrid is the meta. Auto door peek, that's when you run up to an edge of a wall or door, and your character model will automatically angle. I leave that on. I like it. If you you don't like it, you want to just feel like how every other car has felt, except for maybe Ghost, you can go ahead and switch that to on. Movement advanced behaviors is set to toggle. Auto move forward off. Grounded mantle off. Sprint restore on. And this one's more like when you run out of your tactical sprint and then you just running. Once you gain enough stamina, it'll automatically go into the tactical sprint without having to spam L3, even though you're probably going to spam L3. Slide, maintain sprint. This is helpful for the obvious reasons to just keep it more fluid. Tactical sprint behavior is single tap. This will make it as fast as possible. You don't have to just break your L3 and when plunge in water, just trigger, or you could do free. And then sprinting door bash. If you don't like that effect when you get near a door, it just slams it open, you could turn this off. I'm embracing it. I like it. I don't have to interact with doors. I just run right through them and they stay open. Advanced vehicle settings, we're not really going to worry about that. And then combat behavior, aim down sight, hold, weapon mount activity, ADS, C4 detonation grouped, and then equipment behavior, hold, manual fire behavior, press, and then advanced combat settings. There's an interesting one in here that's pretty important in my opinion. You can kind of just see what the list is like, but the weapon mount exit, this one will make it so that as soon as you move your analog to move, you get out of the animation instantly. It's pretty fast compared to short delay where it's like holding and it's just like, wait, and then you move off the thing. That one helps quite a bit. Sprint cancels reload, and then you could always Y out of that. ADS, stick swap off, depleted ammo switch. It'll switch to your secondary. Streak ordering, numerical order, dedicated melee. This is hold. You could actually make it so that you can triangle through all three weapons or Y through all of them to do weapon swap, but hold melee is the way to go. And then the swap body shield behavior, you want that off. So you get the option to either do a quick execution or a standard execution. Appreciate all the support. Thank you for watching as always. Have a great day.